Ooh, another security update. Yeah, so in case you're curious, it's being recorded. All right, so the good news is that most people, while they may not have experience using Google Sheets directly, they likely have worked with Microsoft Excel. It is no secret, I'm a huge hater when it comes to Microsoft anything because it's crap. Okay, I will go on the record and say it's crap. So Google is answering that by creating very similar products like Google Sheets, Google Docs. That's exactly like Microsoft Word. So I have worked within Google Sheets for many years now and find it in many ways to be a lot easier than Microsoft Excel. And the beautiful thing about Sheets is that you can have it with you wherever you are, because just like all things Google, it is cloud-based. Whereas Microsoft Excel can sort of pose a challenge because if it's not on the desktop that you created it on, then it's very hard to access, or you have to download a big clunky file onto your computer, which just takes up more room than what's necessary. So you can have hundreds upon hundreds of Google Sheet files stored within the Google Sheets environment or within Google Drive. And it won't take up any files or storage space on your actual computer. So that's one of the main key benefits of working with Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Drive, and Gmail. Now, diving right in, what you guys see here, this is kind of a dashboard, so to speak. So when you are working within, say, your Gmail, Google Drive, and you want to get to Google Sheets, I always just go from this little stacked menu of dots right here. Right up here, for those of you in the room. That's how I access most of the Google products. And you just click on that. And since I utilize it a lot, it's up here at the top. Yours may be somewhere else, but it's in here. You'll just click on it and it's going to open in a new window to where you'll see here. You'll be greeted with several templates. So calendars, invoices, timesheets, anything that you may have opened to kind of see what it had on it. The first option is to create a blank document. And then also Google Sheets is so kind to have a running list of all of the Google Sheet files that you may have opened within the last week, the last month, and then before that. Okay. So a lot of times if you're working with something over and over again, in my case, like a tracking or any kind of attendance record, it'll show up quite a bit. And another little tip and trick, if you are utilizing something very often, like every day or at least every week, you can create what Google calls a workspace, to where when you're logged in to your Google Drive, it'll show as a priority in a little separate folder where you can quickly access that. And I'll show you guys what that looks like so you know what I'm talking about. So I have my settings set to where it's not going to go into my drive. It's going to show me my priority files. So priority, here are my workspaces. So you guys can see these are the things that I'm in all the time. My training calendar, right? Because I'm constantly working in there. This is my development summary workbook. That's where I keep track of who comes in to what classes, bigger participation. A content calendar, that is not really something I'm in all that often, but I like to have it there. So you can think of these as sort of little shortcuts to the things that you utilize the most. Google calls them workspaces, but you can create as many as you need. So for example, a good workspace for you guys might be all of your listing docs that you bring on a listing presentation or a listing appointment. It could be the documents that you create for yourself that you like to use with your buyers. You could have a whole workspace dedicated to just that. And then you could also have a workspace dedicated to tracking your business or your expenses or whatever else you would want to keep track of. These are my little workspaces. And as you can see, a whole bunch of these are Google Sheet files. So I'm going to show you guys, let me open up the training calendar so you guys can kind of get a feel for the different types of files. And then we'll go in and I'll show you how it kind of works as well. Now, what you're seeing is the training calendar. So every month about this time, I'll go in and I'll create the calendar for the next month. And what you can see, this is just like an Excel spreadsheet, and it works the same way in terms of the tools that are up on the top. So these tools should look very familiar to you. Things like this little guy right here, which is going to give you grid lines. You're going to have some formatting tools, bolding something, making it bigger, changing the font. You can merge the cell just like you would in an Excel file. You've got alignment options. You've got all sorts of fun data options up here. You can filter, you can sort. One of my personal favorites. I just feel like it makes life so much easier. Under format, there's all sorts of other goodies too. So this is where you can create little rules, or what Sheets and Excel calls conditional formatting. So for example, if a cell has this in it, then turn it this color, right? So for your purposes, maybe you have a sheet in Google Sheets of a full list of your clients that you've helped this year. Maybe it's a full list that you like to keep track of. And you categorize them as buyer or seller or investor. You could create a formatting rule in here to where if it has seller next to their name, then it'll light up a certain color. Okay, and you can choose the color. That can be helpful if you ever just wanted kind of a bird's eye view, an overview of what your data looks like. You could do the same thing, sorting and filtering, totally up to you. I'm a big fan of colors, so that's the direction that I tend to go in. Tools, so good. There's all different types of tools that you can add in that Google will provide you for free. I love this feature because with Excel, they want to charge you for any little add-on. Google does not do that because they want you to utilize their product compared to their competitor. You can check your spelling. You can create forms. Anybody using Google Forms? I love Google Forms. This is awesome. And the only reason I bring it up is because if you are utilizing Google Forms, what you will find is that all of the responses that come in from those forms are automatically going to populate into a sheet for you that you don't have to copy and paste the results. It literally generates those results on a sheet for you. Things like surveys, huge. So I don't have to go and extract all of that information. It's going to put it into a Google sheet with a timestamp with the person's name next to it who submitted the response. Okay, and this works whether it's a free form response where you ask an open-ended question and they respond with a short answer, or if they have selections to choose from and they choose it. It works the same way. Okay, all of your other options here. Underneath the file menu, this is important. One of the, I think, major benefits from using a cloud-based program like Sheets or Docs or Drive is the ability to share them without having to actually send a big giant file. So share is a little ways down, and you can share with others by typing in their email address. This is also where you can get a link to share with them as well. So again, this is beneficial because a lot of times, depending on the person you're sending the file to and their email configuration or the different type of product that's hosting their email, it may not accept certain types of files. So when you share it, it shares it with them as a link that they can then click on. That will bring them to the cloud-based version of a file as opposed to a physically attached file that they probably don't want to open anyway. Okay. Now, looking at your download menu, you're going to see that you have plenty of options to choose from when it comes to saving the file if you wanted to save it to your computer or saving it to send to someone. But again, there's no real need to do that as long as you're sharing. You don't need to download it for any real reason. Downloading it, you can download it as an Excel file. You can download it as a PDF. And then most importantly, for those of you who utilize Excel or Google Sheets as your database of your network, of your clients, your contacts, your leads, CSV is a very common extension, file extension. CSV strips the formatting off of whatever you've built it so that you can then import those records into any other third-party site. Okay, so Booz, Chime, Asana, whatever CRM you're using is going to ask you for a CSV if you're going to import your contacts or upload your contacts that you've downloaded from somewhere else. I would think that CSV is probably the only time that you would actually need to download a file out of Sheets that you couldn't share in any other circumstance. Okay. Do you have any questions so far? Okay. You can also move the file within your Google Drive if you ever needed to. Adding a shortcut to Drive moves it into one of those workspaces. You can see your settings down here, how you want the sheet to be formatted, and then you can also print. So a lot of times there are many agents here who have to have paper, and that's okay. Print allows you to do that, and you would set that up much in the same way that you would any other document, that it's going to want to know how do you want it formatted, what size paper, the works. Last but not least, version history. This is so helpful. Because this is a cloud-based program, it automatically saves your work like every 5 to 10 seconds, or essentially anytime that you're making a change, it is constantly working in the background to save it. This is so helpful and so important because y'all know if you've ever worked in Excel and you work a lot and you are not saving it every so often, and then there's a glitch with your computer or it slows down and all of your work is gone. It is incredibly frustrating and terrible. Google Sheets, Google Docs, Drive, all of it is constantly saving your work. So you don't have to worry about that. You never have to go in and file save. You don't ever have to do that. In fact, there's not even an option for that because it's doing it for you. Okay. There's also no real reason to make a copy if you feel like you're making a copy to have the most current version. I see this a lot because our default, we've been conditioned to file save as. No, that file lives here. Now, if you wanted to make a copy to maybe duplicate it and then give it to someone else, then you could do that. Totally could do that. But there is no real reason to ever try to save what's already here because that is redundant. Okay. Yeah, I think that was everything I wanted to show y'all on the menu side. Oh, comments. Are you guys familiar with the old terminology of tracking changes in a document? Okay, this is more specific to Word documents, but it does translate into something like Excel or Sheets. If you are, okay, here's a good example. Say that there are a few of you who are coordinating a fundraiser, and there's something that you want to be able to communicate back and forth about without having to have a meeting or something else. Comments can be especially useful and helpful to collaborate using the data that's in front of you. So a good example is preferred partners. Alicia and I were working together on creating more preferred partners to put into our network. So I had a Google Sheet file where I had my full list of people that I wanted to contact, and I just divvied them up. She had half, I had half, and I would make a comment like this, say that, you know what, let me just show y'all. Say that I wanted to get her attention or let her know, hey, I don't want to contact this person, you contact them. So what I would do is I would just click on any of the cell that I wanted her to contact. Okay, so maybe it's open mortgage. All right, let me move y'all up. I'm going to click right there. You can do this a couple of ways. You can right click and you'll see the ability to not add a comment. Hang on. I wonder why. Hang on. Here. In fact, you guys may be able to see. Okay, here's our little database. This is what we were working from. So you guys can see, like, I had broken it out, like you have this person, I have this person. And then here, there it is. Okay, so maybe I wanted to elaborate on what the full program is. Maybe she hasn't been around long enough to know what that means. I would just go to insert comment, or you can right click, select comment to, open that little box up. And this allows you to tag that person. So if you have gone in here and you've shared this with them already, which you would have, you would just type in their email address and they would be able to open it. I would tag them, okay, and write my little comment, whatever I wanted to tell her. And then if you were to check that box that says assign to this person, it's going to email them and it'll say, hey, Kristen has sent you a comment on this file, please respond. And they can click respond from their email it'll open this file back up and they can respond to me. It'll then notify me. This is incredibly helpful because it saves you a ton of time, and a lot of time, meaning I don't have to go explain to her, sit down with her, show her. I can accomplish the same thing in a quick little comment. You can also check the box to resolve it. So that way I know that she saw it. She would check the box to resolve it, and then it would also tell me that it's been resolved so that it's off of both of our plates. Okay, do you have any questions on that? Cool. Okay, let me go back over here. Now, you guys can see cells can come in all shapes, all sizes. That is as simple as what you think it would be. Moving this over, it's just dragging and dropping. Okay, so I can make it as big or as small as I need. Little tip, little trick. Do you guys see this little box in the top left-hand corner right here? Okay, that's your friend. Basically, if you were to click on that, it's going to select everything within that sheet. If you were to choose any of these over here, you'll just double click on that and it's going to automatically size all of the files according to, or cells, excuse me, according to what's in them. Okay, so nothing's going to be cut off. Some of them are going to be bigger, some of them are going to be smaller, but it's going to save you from having to do this drag and drop trick on all of the columns to fit your data. Okay, so that's a really quick way to auto format.
Show me again where our friend is.
Top left box, this little guy right there.
Green. Oh, okay. Because remember, I'm literal, so I go literally to the top. And I was going, what? Where is she? So I couldn't see her little cursor. Okay, I got you there.
Little guy right there, and so you'll see it selects everything.
Just like in Excel, right?
Yep. And then you click on any one of these columns on its border, and it's double click to expand to fit the data.
Thanks.
Sure. All right, now let me show y'all blank. We'll open up a blank one. Okay, a couple of little things that you probably are aware of, but I'll cover just in case you're not. Right here, that's your title. That's your file name. Untitled spreadsheet is where you'll click on that. This is also how you're going to search it in your Google Drive. So whatever you would normally call it is what you would type here. And that's also, if you were to share it, what the name will appear to be with the person you share it with. Okay, so here we go. Another little tip, little trick. Do you guys see this star right here? If you were to star this, this is very handy. Anything that you use on a recurring basis that you need to get to quickly, if you were to star that, where it will end up, this is your Google Drive. You have a little menu right here that says starred. If you were to click on that and you had a star on this little sheet, that's where it's going to show up. Okay. So helpful. So helpful. So you don't have to go hunting all throughout your Google Drive to find it. Or you could always go and do it the old-fashioned way by typing it in here. Okay. Now, if you wanted to move it, that's where you would do it, that little file folder with the arrow, to put it in a specific folder within your Google Drive. And then you guys can see here, all of your changes were saved. All right. Because again, it does it for you. You don't have to worry about that. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Anybody familiar with using formulas in Excel? Yes, but they're not our friends. Yeah. Well, they can be. Formulas work the same way in Google Sheets as they work in Excel. Okay, so if you know some of the more, I would, like basic, sum or average, then those same formulas will work in Sheets just like they do in Excel. Okay, or you have some options up here to be able to search for the help that you're looking for. So if I were to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then I wanted to add those together, I would, same thing. It'll auto suggest based on what it thinks you're trying to do. You could click on that and there's your sum. Okay. If you wanted to do the average, it's the same thing. Again, it will make a suggestion based on your data and what it thinks you're trying to come up with. You can just click on that. There you go. Super cool. If you wanted, you can select whatever data you wanted, go into format. This is where all of your formatting tools are. So if you wanted it to be a decimal, if you wanted it to be a percentage, maybe you wanted it structured any number of ways, currency, that's where you would do that. You can go to data. Cool. Thank you for the reminder. You can go to data, and that's where you can sort or filter. This is also extremely helpful, particularly if you're using Sheets or Excel for names. Y'all know how much of a pain in the butt it was to try and get a first name in one column, last name in the other column if they started in the same column? Huge pain in the butt. Okay, so what does that look like? Let me show you. So we'll do this. So what you guys are seeing, my first and last name, these first and last names are in the same cell. Okay, what if you wanted to split those? What if you wanted first name in one column, last name in the other column? What you would do is you would select that data, go up to data, and then split text to columns. So with basically a little click, it's going to do that. This is so nice, particularly if you are downloading a list from a third party and it's not formatted according to the way you currently have your sheet formatted. So you can split the text. It's going to ask you, how do I separate it? Do I detect it automatically? Is it a space in between the first name and the last name, or is it something else? I'm going to say it was a space, and now they've split. So nice. So nice. So much easier, y'all, because before you had to have a formula and it was such a pain. So you can do that. Okay. And let me show you guys. Where was that other little conditional formatting? Okay, so under format, if you wanted to see this defaults to this green color, but a lot of times people don't realize that you can change this to where it's most suited for what you would normally be looking for. So if I wanted to find all instances of buyer, and say that I have a sheet and I have buyers and sellers and they're all categorized, I'm going to do buyer, seller, buyer. I'm going to select that data that I want to be able to find that, okay? And I'm going to go to format the cells if the text is exactly this. Okay. Then I'm going to go in here. Maybe I want that to be red. Okay, I'm going to go in here. A11. Go in here and change your range so it knows what data to pick up. So you just click and drag to incorporate all of this. Or if you had a whole sheet that you're working with, you would just do our little trick up here. So it selects the whole sheet. Okay. So I'm going to say, okay. And there you go. So this is very good, particularly if you wanted to kind of see visually how your business was split up. It's also very helpful if you have, for lack of a better word, like an a-hole list. If you have people that you would never work with ever again, but you didn't want to lose their information, so you didn't forget about them. Not that you would, but again, that's just an example. You could create conditional formatting in your sheet that makes them red with big scary letters like no, never, ever again. That's a good way to utilize that tool as well. Okay. You can bold that to where they really stand out. You can also change the font color. So again, if you were like, no way, no how, you could really make those visually stand out to where you wouldn't want to work with them again. And then when you're done, you just say done. You can add as many rules as you like under conditional formatting. So if you wanted to do the same with sellers, or maybe you wanted to separate out like vendors or other types of ancillary arms like lenders, appraisers, that kind of thing from your network, your list of people, then you could highlight them a certain color too. it just wants to know, how do I highlight? How do I know who to highlight? So it helps to have a little category next to their names, which if you're trying to work in a CRM, that can also be very helpful as well. CRMs like to call them tags, but in Sheets or in Excel, that's a good way to do that too. Any question on that? Okay. You guys know how to merge cells. Very simple. If you were to go and create like a little title block, you would just go right here to merge. That little box with the two arrows like this. Merge those together, and now you have something fun. I'm going to go here. Let me get out of here. I'm going to make that centered. And then if you wanted to move the text up or down within that box that you just made, these are your friends, this alignment tool. I'm going to put it in the middle because that's my preference. And then I'm going to make that bold. And this is where I can change my font, just like you would in Excel. Very simple. And down here, that's where you can underline. You can change the border color if that's your thing. And you can also choose the type of line style that you want. Go back in here and choose the bottom. If you wanted to strike through, you do have that option here, just like that. Can also be fun. Any other questions? You can insert links to other files within Sheets or Google Documents, for example. So a good way to utilize that function is a checklist that you utilize internally. So maybe it's like a listing appointment prep checklist, and you want to go through and make sure you have everything off that list. But you wanted to be able to link to some of the other documents that we talked about. You could do that. And that's another benefit of having a cloud-based program. Let me see if I can find one. I think we have like an onboarding checklist. Yes, I'll show you this one. It's got some examples of links, which you guys see right here in blue. These are clickable. And so what will happen is you can either link out to a document also within your Google Drive, or you can link out to a web page. So depending on what your use is, this can also be very helpful. And in this case, this goes to the Trek website. This goes to a document in Google Drive, so that if I were to click on that, it's going to hover over and show me that link so that I know where I'm being taken to. So again, pretty useful, and these live in here until you change it. All of these are links as well. So you can link out to maybe your IADS, or if you wanted to collaborate with your seller on a checklist that you're taking care of, and then a checklist that they need to take care of. Maybe you link to Seller Shield. Maybe you link to the, I don't know, frequently asked questions to your website, or any number of other documents that you utilize over and over again that fall outside of the requirements that we have to adhere to for different types of listing agreements and contracts when that time comes, and all the fun things. You could even link out to like a list of your preferred house cleaners or your preferred stagers, anything that you would want to collaborate with them on. That's a good way to utilize that. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Also, big green share button right here in the top right corner. That's a quick way to share. You can click on it, and then it'll give you a couple of different options. You can share it with people, or you can get a link. If you're going to go the link route, then you have to be able to update the share settings. So you would click on the blue text here at the bottom where it says share with Remax One. That means that document is restricted to just my organization. So if I wanted this to be open to anyone that I sent it to, I would click on that, and then I would see a drop down, and I'm going to change that to anyone with the link. Okay. And then I have a pretty disgustingly long link that I can copy, but you can also shorten this utilizing the URL shortener. Or if you wanted to put this in an email, for example, you could copy the link, And then what you would do is, let me open up my email for you guys so you can see how I would utilize that. I don't ever click on a big long link like that because I feel like it's going to crash my computer. So you can, like I said, utilize the URL shortener for free with Remax. Or if you wanted to, you could start typing in your email, copy or not copy, but highlight the word that you wanted to link to, like so. Link to the spreadsheet is what I want to highlight. And then down here in your little Gmail tools, you have a paperclip and you have this little link. The paperclip, y'all know, is the attachment. But if you click on this link button, then you can paste that big long link right there and they won't see it. All they'll know is that that's clickable. Little handy dandy trick that we utilize all the time for different forms that we're using with onboarding. And then also it's a hyperlink. So they just click and go. All right. Do you have any specific questions on Sheets? Okay. Well, if you think of anything after the fact, if you're working within it and you get stuck, let me know. There are so many tutorials. If you were to go into Google's little library, there's been a time or two where I'm like, how do I this? And it's in there. And a lot of times that's what I'll Google. Exactly how I would ask the question, that's what I would type in my Google search bar. And then more times than not, it takes me back to Google's library and I knock it out in a minute because it's just little quick clips. So there's that as well. If y'all need something, if you run into any trouble, please let me know and I'm happy to help you. I did record this, so it'll be available and we'll put it in our library, both on Backagent, on YouTube now, and eventually we're going to have it in our Remax University library. So that's going to be fun too. But thank y'all so much for being in our class this morning over Google Sheets. Tomorrow at 11:30, we're going to do another one. It's going to be a quick class. It's over how to create a QR code in Canva. And QR codes kind of made a big comeback last year, but they are great for print specifically. Because you can create them for free in Canva and they live in Canva, so you don't have to keep up with it. And you can put them on business cards, flyers, brochures, whatever, and you can direct it to a website of your choice. So we'll do that tomorrow at 11:30. I'll record that as well in case you miss it. But thank y'all so much, and I hope you have a great day.